Hello there, and welcome to my final YouTube vlog of the year. It's the New Year's Eve on December 31st, 2012. Tomorrow's going to be a brand new year, 2013, and I'm going to talk about the happiest and the most unhappiest events as far as I'm personally concerned for me this year, and some hopes for the future. Now, I'm going to start off with some, goodbyes for this year. These are people, there's been a lot of celebrities who have died this year, but these are people who may not be so famous. A lot of them work in the funk, soul, and jazz world that I love musically, and a lot of them are famous. But I'm going to list them down and say my goodbyes. Adam Yauch, MCA from the Beastie Boys, passed away this year. Donna Summer, a real surprise, much earlier in the year that she passed away. She'll be missed. Queen of Disco. Chuck Brown, now he was a musician who founded a music called Go-Go. It was a very long-winded kind of instrumental groove music, funk as they say, inspired by James Brown. He pioneered that in the Washington, D.C. area in the late 70s and early 1980s. Donald Duck Dunn from Booker T and the MGs. Time is Tight, Green Onions. He played on all of that. Otis Redding passed away this year. He was in the Blues Brothers too. Donald Duck Dunn. Charles Skip Bitts. Now you may not know him, but you know his guitar playing. He played on Isaac Hayes' theme from Shaft. All you need to know. Jimmy Ellis, one of the singers for the Tramps. Disco Inferno. Remember that? He passed away this year. And Whitney Houston, of course. Now, I've done a lot of videos about her on the day, on the month after. Lost Whitney this year, of course. Don Cornelius, who was an enormous figure. I mean, he hosted Soul Train, but he was an enormous figure in the music world. Look him up on Wikipedia. Do some research. You'll find he's a very interesting figure. Etta James, Queen of the Blues and Soul, At Last, and all that. She passed away. Dave Brubeck. Donald Fagen said, "He's an artist, a pioneer. We have to have some music on the new frontier." I'm not singing very well today, but that's what he said about Dave Brubeck back in 1982. He did Take 5. He changed time signatures in jazz and popularized West Coast cool. He died in 92, lived a long life, had a good long career. We'll miss you, David. Johnny Otis, famous blues musician, wrote Hound Dog for Big Mama Thornton. Everybody knows it by Elvis, but Johnny Otis, huge figure. Father of Shuggie Otis, unsung solo artist who composed Strawberry Letter 23 for Brothers Johnson many years later. Ravi Shankar, you all know him from, tutoring George Harrison in the sitar and popularizing Indian classical music in England and in America during the British invasion. And most recently, the day after Christmas, Fontella Bass, who did Rescue Me. Everybody thought for years Aretha did that song. That was Fontella Bass. Okay, she only had one hit. She collaborated with many other artists and did gospel music and soul all her life, and died somewhat of an unknown, of a heart attack. That's probably the saddest death, that she was an unknown. Levon Helm, of course, also died. But about Fontella Bass and Charles Skip Bitts and a lot of these people who you may not know, for all the Adam Yauchs, the Donna Summers, the Whitney Houstons, the Etta James, there's an equal amount of unknown people who you just don't know their names. So I think one of the things we have to do in the coming year as a society is not take for granted the people that are there and the people that are making an innovation, so we don't look back when they die and say, oh, we should have remembered them more. We should have done more to remember them. Let's do it now. That's the important thing. Now, as far as some of the good things that happened this year, one of them is a good news, bad news kind of thing. As you know, I've been talking about it in almost every vlog I've made for the month of December since it happened, the Sandy Hook shootings. Now, that's a terrible thing, but it's also a very good thing because it put a very, 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 very heavy microscope on the issue of guns in America and who can get them. And it also shined a light on the NRA and how they feel about it. And they have really been very unsympathetic. They really have. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to detract what they said, but they said what they said. And that's the problem with first impressions. You only get to make one. And they made theirs, and they just have to stick with it. And I think society is starting to think, the president is crying over this. He knows something has to be done, and the new year is going to be facing some of those challenges. Not just about guns, but about mentally ill people, and, how to take care of them, how to make sure they know how to deal with things like, guns and weapons or whatever productively. So this kind of thing doesn't have to happen again. And we shouldn't arm our schools. I'm going to say it right out there. We shouldn't arm our schools in the new year. I think the NRA are wrong. I know the NRA are wrong. It's terrible, it's disgusting, and it's amoral. And it's revolting. But I don't think it's going to happen. We don't need any more guns in our schools. We need to do other things. And that leads me to the next good thing to happen this year. Barack Obama get a second term as the President of the United States. All right, I'm going to say it, people. I'm not biased in any way politically. I'm really not. I think Abraham Lincoln and Dwight Eisenhower had great qualities in presidents, and they were Republican. They were conservative, and they had a lot of great qualities. Despite any revisionism, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Eisenhower spoke about the need to demilitarize America, which we are dealing with now, an over-militarization of America. And these are very conservative people. And I'm going to tell you right out there, all of you conservatives who dislike Obama and say racist things about him, I think you really like him. I think you do. If I can say that I respect Republicans like Dwight Eisenhower or Abe Lincoln, I think you, out there, who don't like Obama just because of partisan politics or your own personal racism, just admit it, move on, and find things to like. That's what I have to say. I think in 2013, with all these things, the guns, the mentally ill, the president, our own racism that a lot of people are just kind of discovering, I think 2013 for me is going to represent appreciation. Appreciation of some of these musicians, maybe, and artists, before they die, so we don't have to look back at them and say we wish we did. Appreciation of the president, not because of what he can't do for us right this second, but for what he's encouraging us to do for ourselves. And hopefully, and this is my greatest hope, and I wish this every new year since I can understand it, peace on earth. Some years, New Year's have represented war on earth. This year, people said it was going to represent the end of the world, the Mayan calendar. That didn't happen. It's not going to happen. There is a tomorrow. There's a new year, and I think this year is going to be about love, appreciation, and peace. Peace to all of you. Have a wonderful new year. Appreciate and love. See you in 2013.